Hi everyone, this is Nadia, Jake, Sedona, and Buddy, and our Babu boys downstairs. Today we're going to be talking about two movies, A Haunting in Venice and The Nun 2.
Non-spoilers, so if you want to hear about these movies, this is the place. Very different movies. I think it's a stretch to say that A Haunting in Venice is a horror movie, but we're going to talk about that first. So, what did you think about Kenneth Branagh's Haunting in Venice?
I think it was my favorite movie this year.
Really?
Yeah, I would put it 9.5 out of 10.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
Actually, forget it, 10 out of 10.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I've
been wanting to watch, have do this review because we watched it like a week ago. And yeah, it's such a good film. Horror-ish, but it's more mystery. I really love the performance, the acting. I grew up in like Sherlock Holmes type of movies, and
it might help to inform people that A Haunting in Venice isn't really a horror movie. It is an Agatha Christie mystery. It's continuing on the series of Kenneth Branagh.
There's a horror elements into it, though. No mistake. There's definitely horror aspect to it. There's definitely supernatural aspect to it. However, it's more of a spiritual guidance rather than like something that's informing you on different types of scenes.
So the previous movies that Kenneth Branagh did is Murder on the Orient Express. That one had another huge star-studded cast, Daisy Ridley, everything. And that's probably the most adapted Agatha Christie mystery besides maybe And Then There Were None. And then after they did Death on the Nile, which had issues. I think it was released during COVID. Well, now two canceled people in it. It had Armie Hammer and the Russell Brand was in it, I think, Gal Gadot. I didn't see either of those. This was just something that we saw, and it seemed like they were trying to take the Agatha Christie whodunit into a more ghostly territory, put some like horror spin on it, and I thought that was really good. Interestingly, after watching it, I was surprised to learn that this was adapted from a book Christie wrote in the 60s called Halloween Party, I believe. Mm. And that book, as far as I can tell, based on what I read, has nothing to do with this story, just very barely. It's not set in Venice. It's set in England. You know, there are some of the same characters, but the mystery is totally different. So, unlike the first two movies that seem to hew pretty closely to the Christie books, this one was sort of more of just an invention from the screenwriter and Branagh, and they were just doing their own thing with Poirot. I thought that it was really interesting what they were doing with it. It was the most interesting part was the directing, the cinematography, which it felt very like Orson Welles inspired. It was really stylized, wide lenses, canted angles, just really going for it in terms of style. That was the best part of the movie to me, was just the visuals. You don't see a lot of big Hollywood movies being shot and filmed like this, that it was just incredibly refreshing.
Jake and I have visited Venice before. We went there right before COVID. And so it was really nice and nostalgic for me because, you know, Venice is such a beautiful place, but it's also can be really creepy. At nighttime, especially when there's no one else around, and this movie really showed that. The movie really centers around a love story. It's almost like a twist in Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, so you are rating this 10 out of 10. What makes it stand out? What makes it so amazing that it's your favorite movie of the year?
Well, first of all, I think I'm biased because I love whodunit type of film. I think the twist in a little horror-ish genre is cherry on the top, and thought the cinematography was really well done, the way that it was filming, the scenery. I also like that they didn't make the characters dumb. Sometimes when you watch these films, it's like you're trying to, it's just so redundant, and every character had its own arc. Every character contributed to the ending, and at the same time, like, in a way, it reminded me of Knives Out.
Well, yeah, Knives Out is kind of the same type of whodunit thing.
Yeah. I think it's mostly the way that it was directed and filmed. It was just very, like, I felt like I was transported back to time. And I could really be in it, in the character. Again, probably also because I've gone to Venice and it's one of my favorite places in the world. So I think all of it kind of contributed to it. It gave me a nostalgic aspect of it. It made me feel like I was getting that mystery aspect, but also like a twist of horror aspect. It was as like the plot, even though it's a whodunit, wasn't as no-brainer as some of these movies tend to be.
The script was pretty tight as well. It was a pretty brief 90 minutes.
Every scene was moving towards something and was not just stagnant for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it because of that. Yeah. You could probably 30 minutes into it, you could probably kind of predict who could have done it.
I predicted it, yeah.
Yeah, but then because of the horror aspect of it, it does make you question.
I didn't care. I mean, I thought the mystery was good and interesting, and it definitely kept my attention, but I was more interested in just the atmosphere and the mood, kind of like how I feel watching older films, especially like it reminded me a lot of Orson Welles' Othello. I think that's the one that he set in Venice, but just the style, like the way it was edited too, with just the images of, the clocks and the alleys and the, mm-hmm. I thought it was really a wonderful setting to do an Agatha Christie mystery. All of the elements worked well. I really liked Jamie Dornan, right? He's the 50 Shades of Grey. He played a character that I was really interested in, that had a really, really unique relationship with the son, who's like this precocious son. And I do have to comment that it is not just the filmmaking is stylized, but the performances are stylized. You get a sense that it's very like theatrical. It's kind of big, and that adds to the feeling of it being an older film. Tina Fey plays a writer, an author character who fast-talking New York kind of character mm-hmm. you'd see in older films. And I thought she did a pretty good job. However, the most interesting stuff was, I think, with Poirot, who is dealing with, trying to debunk this mysticism. And how does he do that? Can he, what are his feelings about the world and life and the afterlife after the devastation of World War II? I get there are probably Agatha Christie purists who are like, this isn't Poirot, this isn't what he's about. He doesn't have this type of character or darkness, whatever. For this movie, it worked. I thought, like, if you're just looking at it as a movie in itself, I thought that his arc or his character motivations were very clear and interesting. Yeah, there were some cheesy moments, but it almost verges on just like campy, like intentionally theatrical and big. Mm-hmm. I think if you're going into this movie expecting to be scared, that's the absolute wrong attitude to have, because I personally didn't think it was scary at all. It's scary in the way that watching an old horror movie from the 1930s might be scary. It's just kind of spooky and has an atmosphere, but it's about the mystery. And I don't know. I was really, really surprised. I'd give it probably a 7 out of 10. I was just really surprised with the quality of this movie.
I mean, there's not really much I can say since we're not doing spoilers. So
shall we move on to talk about...
I highly recommend it. Would you recommend it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Go watch it while it's in theaters. I think even if you didn't like the first two, I'd say go check this out. I have a sense that it's different enough. So we're talking about...
The Nun 2.
The Nun 2. Now, you wanted to see this. I don't really know why. We hadn't seen The Nun 1. We still haven't seen the original Nun.
Yeah.
But you wanted to see a horror movie with your cousin while he was here, so we went and saw it. I'll ask you first. What did you think of The Nun 2?
5 out of 10.
That's generous.
5 out of 10 because I'm a scaredy cat and I closed my eyes for a lot of scary films, so it wouldn't really be fair for me to give it any less since I didn't watch quarter of the film when it was scary because I was like taking shelter mm-hmm. In your arms. I screamed a lot. Fun film. I really hated the ending, but it ties in very nicely at the same time to The Conjuring, and I really like that as well, is that it kind of tied all these different pieces of movies together. There was
a mid-credit sequence that was, I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, I watched the beginning of Conjuring after this film.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, and it made me really sad because it's very like, the ending of the characters are not what, you typically want it to be. I thought the CGI was really probably bad, even though I was scared.
Even though you weren't looking at the screen.
I was looking at some parts, and I was just scared because I thought like they were gonna make something bigger out of the CGI.
It was scary because it was loud. It was just loud jump scares.
That's why, because like when it's scary, I'm like, I'm closing my eyes so I can hear it.
If you're in a theater that has good sound and it's loud, you can get startled when there's a jump scare. Also, it's very
airy where we go because like there were literally 2 other people. And so it's dark. I went to the bathroom midway and I literally felt like I was being haunted in the bathroom. I had my own personal experience add on to the whole movie experience.
I will say there were a couple of horror sequences that were interesting and well structured, were kind of fun, but it was just leveled off by way too many just annoying jump scares that were just like things popping out, the scary lady standing at the end of the hallway and we're just looking at her and then she just rushes towards the camera, like it was just like way too much of that. And I feel like some of that must be studio mandated. I know studios are like, we need more jump scares in here. This is a scary movie.
I think it's like a formula for them.
There's a formula, but I do think that there was some intention and ideas put behind certain sequences. That is until the finale, which I thought was just so ridiculous, and I don't think in a fun way. It was just a little much.
That's funny because I actually liked the finale.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's like my favorite part of the movie.
It was largely pretty boring.
So pros, well, it's really hard for him to like scary films. So he's also biased, but
I love scary movies.
But you don't get scared very easily. You were like laughing while I was screaming. You and I are a different audience
because it was funny.
Yeah, well, I was like,
was just really like
I was like,
dumb.
Oh my god, and then you were like, ha ha ha.
I mean, it's one of those horror movies where like the second you're done watching it, it just exits your brain. There are certain moments
it didn't exit my brain,
but there were some some of the mystery stuff, like they're trying to figure out what's going on. It was just really stupid.
Pros is that for me, I thought the story overline was really well done. I really liked how it brought it back into the whole Conjuring universe.
I haven't seen any of those movies. So
I've seen The Conjuring.
I didn't think it connected in any way interesting. I was just like,
no.
Okay.
Well, I really liked that it was connected all together, even though the way that I didn't like. Thought that it was better than I thought like it was going to be, because The Nun I've not heard the best things about, and at the same time it wasn't really like doing very well in the box office. My hopes were really low.
I think it did okay at the box office.
It did? Okay. And my hopes were really low and actually surpassed it. I thought like it probably got more hate than it deserves. The directing was fine. The CGI I think made it worse, and I think it's really easy to blame the directing, but I don't think the directing was bad. I just think that the sound effects and the movie scenes and sequences, which were more technical, could have been better. But I also think that there was a short turnaround time from the first to the second, and that could be studio pressure because they kind of want to go into the momentum of Nun 1 to Nun 2. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that was the fault of people who were, making the CGIs, because I just don't think they allowed as much time. And usually with movies like this, it's very common to do that because they kind of just want to put it out for like fast as possible rather than the quality. And I think that was really compromised here. If the CGI was better, I think the movie as a whole there's so much potential in the movie to be better. But again, I honestly think it's because of turnaround time and not because of the quality of the work, in the sense that there's potential that it could have been better had they had the time to do it.
I will say I enjoyed this more than The Pope's Exorcist, because I feel like this one didn't take itself as seriously. The Pope's Exorcist was just really dull and predictable. This one had more just like dumb, over the top, scary sequences, and jump scares, and it's fine. I mean, you know what you're expecting for this type of movie. I mean, you'll either
what you're getting into.
It's more for a teenage crowd, that wants to go get scared with their dates or whatever. So it wasn't a very smart movie, but it doesn't have to be. It's just not my thing.
These movies are not supposed to be, though, in that way.
Yeah, it just wasn't my thing. I just didn't buy the character relationships. I thought they were super thin, and I mean, it was okay, but just serviceable, not great. I'd give it like a 4 out of 10.
All right, not too much. Like, I'm 5 out of 10. You're 4. Not bad. All right. Well, let us know if you watched any of those films. Looks like Sedona is really ready.
Let us know
you're ready.
what you want us to watch, and we'll talk to you all soon.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.